Mitch.
Oh, hey, Ed, how's it going today, buddy?
Oh, look, it's going fantastic. You're doing an awesome job flying, but I don't know why we had to go out in the full moon.
Well, I figured if we're going to be doing werewolf, might as well fly in a full moon. You don't know what's going to happen.
What did you say?
Werewolf.
Werewolf?
Yeah.
Werewolf? No, well, we're not doing werewolf. We're doing Airwolf.
Oh. Uh-oh.
Let's just start the show. Hi, this is Ed Dollister.
And this is Stringfellow Halleck.
And welcome to another exciting episode of Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure. If it's your first time here, thanks so much for joining us. If you are a regular viewer, thanks for coming back. Before we hit the skies in the mid 80s, Mitch, how can you find out a little bit more about what we do here?
Oh, Ed, it is easy as jumping to Mach 1 in your supersonic helicopter and dropping a couple of those fire things behind you and blowing up missiles. All you got to do is smash that like button and the subscribe button too, and you'll be subscribed to Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure. And hit the like button while you're there too, because it makes Ed and I feel all warm and fuzzy. And hit
That's
the
right.
notification bell. I know it's a lot, but you do that and you'll get to know the next time Ed and I take off into the great unknown. Where are we going today, Ed?
Well, we're going to 1984's Airwolf. And back in the day, back in, I suppose, the early 80s, helicopters were a big thing for some reason. And it all
Yeah,
happened, I suppose, thanks to 1983's Blue Thunder,
Blue Thunder. That's a
which was
good show.
directed by John Badham, who directed Saturday Night Fever, amongst other things, and War Games, and starred Roy Scheider. And it was sort of a bit of a, and was Daniel
Daniel
Stern in that?
Stern, Roy Scheider, and Warren Oates,
Ah,
who was also in Stripes. He was the
okay.
Sergeant Hulk, the big
A-
toe. Yeah, he passed away early, like 40
Ah,
years old.
and
Anyway,
it was a sort of a, I suppose it was a surprise hit, the movie. So what happened? TV studios started to scramble and go, "Hey,
hmm,
let's do some chopper
let's do
shows
some.
that center
Yeah.
around helicopters." So there was a number that were out there, and they all came out, interestingly, around January 1984. There was Riptide.
Riptide with the big helicopter with Perry King, Joe Perry, and I can't remember the guy who played Boz. And their helicopter was a woman's name. I can't think of what it was called, but it had like a big face painted on it. It was a Vietnam era
Yes,
helicopter,
because
I
they
believe
were
they.
ex-Vietnam vets, and then they opened
Yeah.
up a detective agency. And I guess, I suppose look, there was a helicopter in it. It
I
didn't
think it was
really,
Bertha or something like
yeah, it
that.
could have been Big Bertha. It was centered around not necessarily the helicopter, but
No,
it
they
was,
would get in wacky misadventures as soldiers of fortune, and they were like the A team with a sense of humor,
yeah,
and
and
they
it,
got hired out, and they would
yeah,
do those things. Yeah,
and it
and
ran, I
Boz
think,
was
for
the
two
nerd.
seasons. It was reasonably popular. They
It
brought out
was.
they brought out a TV series based on Blue Thunder
They
called Blue
did with
Thunder.
James Ferrantino and a young Dana Carvey
Yes.
who was there, and of course Malcolm McDowell was the bad guy in the movie, but they couldn't get him for TV, so they ended up getting somebody else. But what they did on the TV show, because at the end of Blue Thunder, Roy Scheider destroys the prototype super police helicopter by leaving it on a train track, and a train demolishes it. And so they had to restart the whole show, but it didn't last that long. Bubba Smith was in it as well.
Oh,
He was
yes.
a big football player back here. Uh,
Yes.
I'm trying to
Well,
think
it
of what
only ran for one season, and
it did.
ironically, it was the shortest lived of all the Blue
The
Thunder
helicopter shows.
rip-offs.
Yeah.
And then along came Airwolf, which was created by Don P. Bellisario,
Belisario. Yes.
who did Magnum PI. He
Tales
did
of the Gold
Tales of the
Monkey.
Gold Monkey.
He also did, I think, Hardcastle and McCormick. I think that was one of his too. Was that
Yes.
done? Yeah.
And so he was up there with, like Stephen J.
Stephen
Cannell and all
Cadell. Yeah,
those.
he was one of those guys. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, he had this idea during a episode of Magnum where one of the characters was looking for their long lost brother, yada yada yada, who was lost in Vietnam and was a chopper pilot. And I think
Yep.
they were trying to make that, no pun intended, a backdoor pilot for a show that never eventuated. And he used some of those ideas for a character in Tales of the Gold Monkey a little bit
Hmm.
later. And then when the opportunity came to make Airwolf, that's what he based his story on. So he had some wonderful character actors in there and actors. Of course, Stringfellow Hawk, which has got to be one. It's up there with Napoleon Solo as a cool character name, I think, played
It
by
was indeed. Yeah. Jan
Jan
Michael
Michael
Vincent.
Vincent.
Yes, the baby blue Marine. He was the heartthrob back here. He was in a lot of B movies that you could see him in. Of course, when we did Damnation Alley, he was one of
Yes.
those guys. I'm not going to say he was the poor man's like Charlton Heston, but he did a lot of those, rough and ready action roles. I remember him in some truck driver movie. I think it was called Convoy was the thing. But you know what? I remember seeing Jan Michael Vincent of all things. I think Journey to Shiloh with a young Harrison Ford. It was like a
Ah.
TV movie about the war, the Civil War back in the day.
Hmm.
So could fact check me. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that Jan Michael Vincent and Harrison Ford were in that same, Universal Studio era of where they had a stable of actors that they pulled from.
And he was a reasonable name for the for the TV series
Yeah.
to
He was a
latch onto.
heartthrob. Yeah, little hot-tempered, a little, off screen. He had a reputation for being a
He
little
had some issues,
difficult.
unfortunately,
He
but
did. Yeah, he did. He
he was
did.
always
But
he had a good screen presence, I
he
think,
did.
which
He was
was
one of those guys. Like there was that whole generation, like Robert Urich and Jan Michael Vincent. Everybody loved him.
yep,
They could do no wrong. They were the good old boy down the street, the bad boy with the heart of gold. Let's just
yes.
say that. So
That and
there,
that's the role that you play on this show, really. So
absolutely, and well, I'm waiting for the next one because this is one. It's a hometown hero, as we
uh,
always talk about.
it's
You know
Dominic
him,
Santini, that's played by
right?
Ernest
Ernest
Borgnine.
Borgnine, who was friends with whose grandfather? This guy. Born in Hamden, Connecticut, the town next to New Haven, Connecticut, lived on Olivia Street, and they went into Merchant Marines right around the same time, Mr. Borgnine and my great grandfather. So there you go. That's a true story. And
And he was playing. Usually, he played, I suppose, rough and ready
the
characters,
rough
but
and
he
ready,
was
yeah, like the bruiser guy, like the drill sergeant guy. And hey, he went on to win an Academy Award for playing Marty, the
yes.
mama's boy butcher who stayed home and wasn't a good looking guy. And his mother would always go, Marty, when are you going to get a nice wife or something? And Ma, it doesn't make a difference if I wear the blue suit, the brown suit. I'm not a good looking man, Mom. Again, this is dialogue right from the Ed Dollister story, but I
Boy,
Ernest Borg. Well, I was just getting it back. Ernest
especially when
Borgnine.
I'm looking like the suave archangel as
I know, but again,
Alex
who was that
Cord. Thank
played
you
by?
very much,
Alex Cord. McCord?
Alex Cord. No, you're thinking
Cord.
of
Excuse me. I was thinking of Kent McCord for a brief
yes,
moment.
Battlestar Galactica. Though there is a Battlestar Galactica link.
In the show notes.
So and I always dug his glasses. How he never wore an eye patch.
No, he was too
He
cool
had
for
the.
that.
It's
Yeah, he
very
was like
cool.
Nick Fury, but he didn't want to do
Yes.
the eye patch. And may I add, if you watch the pilot episode, lovely actress named, I believe, Belinda Bauer, who was a staple in a lot of early 80s movies. In fact, she's in one of my favorite movies that had Fred Ward about him being a time traveler on a motorcycle. I can't think of the name right now, but it's
Time
one of those.
Riders. Was that it?
Oh, yeah, it was something Time Rider, The Adventures of Alex so and so. Like they were going to make a bunch of these movies. They never did. But she was in that one, Belinda Bauer. And she was in another big movie back in the day. I can't think. It wasn't like Flashdance because that's not her, but
That's Jennifer
she had that
Beals.
look. Huh?
Yep. Well, yeah,
No, she
yeah,
had
Jennifer
that
Beals.
curly haired, that early 80s style.
Yes.
There was a stable of young actresses that had that similar look, and they were like, yeah, get Belinda Bauer. So she was on the first episode. Unfortunately, she gets killed by a terrorist working for Colonel Gaddafi over in Libya. His name was Moffat. He was like a sadist. He like chained her to a Jeep and left her out in the desert. And Stringfellow Hawk reluctantly gets involved with the CIA, aka the company, wink,
Hmm.
wink, and he's going to go find her and he's going to take on these missions because he wants to find. Now, here's I got to ask you. He's trying to find his brother who was an MIA, missing in action in Vietnam.
Yep.
What was his brother's first name, according to you?
St. John.
Dude, till today, I was this old when I found out. I thought it was St. John. I
So
always remember St. John.
I
And
think
now
they, I think
I looked
they,
it up. They retconned it. It says St. John. I go, no, no, no. I remember St. John Hawk because he was supposed to be part Native American and something else. And I was like, I thought it was an Asian name. I never know it was St.
so I
John.
think they, I think yeah, they changed it because obviously, so the season was successful. You had Deborah Pratt in season one, and she left,
Yeah.
and then you had
He was the married to Donald Belisario. That was his wife.
yes, it was quite expensive the show, and they
Oh,
had
yeah.
there's a great episode where there's so many explosions. It's ridiculous
Oh,
the
yeah. It
amount.
was
It was
crazy.
really
Yeah.
good. It was an expensive show. It got cancelled during season. It's for season three. Another network picked it up and
USA Network.
basically
Yeah. They overhauled it. They
rebooted
got
it. In fact, they didn't even have the helicopter.
no. They
So
had
they had a
cut
mock-up
footage.
helicopter,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah. Yeah.
it was originally a Bell 222 chopper, but they got Jan Michael
Barry.
Vincent back for one for
Yes.
the start, the first
The
episode of season
handoff
four.
to Barry Van Dyke, who came
Barry
on.
Van Dyke
Gary
from
Van Dyke's Jerry Van Dyke, Dick Van Dyke's son.
yes,
But that's another Battlestar connection because isn't he from Galactica 80 along
yes,
with
he
Kevin?
is with Kent McCord.
It's just bizarre how they're
Yes.
connected, you know. But yes,
So
it and one more season on the USA networks out here, Airwolf, but it was not the same show. It was very on the cheap,
yeah.
really cheap,
And I
you
think
know.
the thing that people remember most about it, apart, there's the helicopter, there's that scene of Stringfellow on the
Cello.
yeah, which
He'd
is
be the cello at the boat at the river house or the lake
yes,
house with the dog by his side, and that's how it ended most of the time because he was always very deep in thought. He was a big
yeah,
art lover too. That was the whole
yes.
thing. It's like he traded in masterpieces. I
He
don't know
was
how
a
he
he
got
was a
all of them.
multi-layered
He was a
character, which was
Renaissance
good.
man and an ace helicopter pilot and former spy or whatever he was up to. But
Yeah,
he was something
and
else.
of course the theme, the fantastic theme that
Oh,
was so famous. We can't
yes.
play it unfortunately because we
No, I
get
know, but it was weird.
copyright.
As soon as I was thinking about it, it came right to me. I was like, dun, 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 dun. That would be like the music, and then you'd hear that noise, that
Yes,
screech when it would go into Mach 1. A real helicopter can only do about 500 miles an hour. That's not really Mach 1, but this thing, they had the turbo boost. Remember, they'd hit it
yeah,
just like they would do it on a Viper on the Battlestar Galactica,
yes,
and then their heads would jerk back and Airwolf
and
would shoot
stealth
out.
mode, and it had a lot
Felt
of
it could go
tricks.
up to like 100. At one point, they did a stupid thing where they said it could go not suborbit, but it did go up to like 100,000 feet,
Yes,
which is insane for a helicopter. It can't do such a thing. But I think it even
uh,
did a loop, just like Blue Thunder. They somehow managed a helicopter, which again can't do a loop because it flies by pushing down on air. So if it's going to go up like this, it's going to straight
yeah.
down, drop. But
So
because I know that, Ed, because
because you,
they invented the helicopter at the Sikorsky airfield, located 7 miles from my house,
of
right here in
course they did.
Stratford, Connecticut, by Igor Sikorsky. I drive over the bridge every day, and the big helicopters come over. But it was not a Sikorsky helicopter, as you pointed out. It was a
No,
Bell helicopter.
it was a
That's
Bell
no longer
helicopter.
that's no longer here. Did you know it got unfortunately destroyed?
It crashed, killing everyone in it, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So,
three people aboard. Yeah, 1992. Somebody bought it and they were flying it. I think it was bad weather, like a fog, and it crashed, unfortunately. So
so
they're
it
really
was
real.
it. So the TV series was successful. Anything that gets more than like two seasons, or if
Oh,
they get
that's a
three seasons,
miracle.
it's pretty successful. So, merchandise, which is what we're all about. Now you're going to ask
Yeah.
me the usual questions.
They did not have a board game because I would have bought it because I loved Airwolf. But I'll tell you what kind
There
of
was a
games they
board
did have.
game.
No, there wasn't.
There was a board game released in Spain.
Well, hola, I'm not down in Spain. That's
Okay,
why I
I'm
never
just going to
knew
say
about it.
there was a board game.
And what was the object of the game? Did you have to build
It
the
was
Airwolf?
it had all these like hexagons, and you had to like it was a bit like maybe Risk, where you had to
Yeah.
move everything around. There
Did
was
you get a
not
little
a
toy Airwolf? That would have been
yeah,
cool.
Ertl came to the rescue as
Yes.
always. They did a lot of the
They did the Blade Runner ones. I remember Airtel made those
yeah, they
too.
also did
Already.
I was going to say the
James
A
Bond. They
Team
did some.
and
I think
things
they
like
did some
that.
too. Yeah.
But yes, they made die cast helicopters, and they had a gift set. I'll put a picture up of those as well. There was model kits. There was
Mm.
a remote control flying
Really?
wolf that I've seen,
Oh, I would have bought that.
which is pretty cool. There was also
Yeah.
a video game, so a number of
That's what I remember. I remember Airwolf video games for
yeah.
some
So they
reason.
did
'Cause I
that
think it
on
was a Commodore 64
Nintendo.
had one.
Yes, Commodore
Yeah.
64. I was going to
There
say
was also two
merchandise.
books. I bet you don't have the books.
There was some. I believe there was a novel, one or
Yeah,
two
there was two
novels.
of them. Yeah, they did a novel. I don't think it was, well, maybe it was a novelization of the pilot, but there definitely was two books. I remember going to the bookstore as a kid and seeing
Yes.
Airwolf on a paperback. I was like, look
Yep.
at that.
And they did an LCD game. Those little LCD
Oh
ones.
yeah, yeah, Tiger. There was like the
So they did
cheesy
a
video game
version of
show.
that, and of course they did release a movie. Sort of, it was like I think it was released on VHS where they bundled together a couple of
Yeah, a couple episodes. Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So
Oh,
they
yeah. You
did
know
they
what?
did release it on it's on DVD, and I don't know if it's Blu-ray, but it
I
is
don't know. I saw it at Walmart of all places a while back. They had the complete series, but it's not the complete series. They would only give you seasons 1 through 3. They did
yes.
not have season 4 on there. So I'm like, well, that's not really a complete
And
series
season
there.
4, the budget was, a lot lower, and I don't
Like
think they really consider
$5.
that too much a part of the actual
We have a
series.
bigger budget than they had on that show. You know
Yeah.
what's weird? They don't mention he used a lot of the same actors, Belisario. So if you watched Tales of the Gold Monkey, if you watch Magnum, you would see like Jeff McKay, who played Corky. He would
Yes.
pop up as Thomas Magnum's like Navy buddy who got killed as like a ghost. And there was another guy, Luck. I'm gonna say his last name was Luckenbill. Not, but he was the guy that was like a country big like John Wayne character. He was always a pilot. He was on Tales of the Gold Monkey. He was
Yes.
on Airwolf. I don't know if it was like the right hand
Not
man to
Luke Luckenbill. Where am I getting?
that's the guy. Yeah, Luckenbill. He was on like every show that this guy ever did. I
Yes.
think they wanted him to be Stringfellow Hawk, but it just didn't work out. But what I was going to say to you is they had another actress on the show because they went away from the espionage, gritty stuff after season 1, and then they kind of got family oriented. They brought on Caitlin, who was this
Yes.
very cute redhead, short red hair back in the day. And I don't know whatever happened to that actress. I was going to say I don't think she went on to a Magnum or any of his other
Hmm.
shows. But I don't even remember the actress's name. I think she replaced Pratt when she
Yeah,
left
that
the
was
series.
I had it, and I think I had it here. That was
Just remember Caitlin
Jean
and
Bruce Scott.
that's it, Jean Bruce Scott. She's out there somewhere. But I remember her and Dom Santini from Santini Airs. They would always be like hanging out in the Airwolf cave because he had a secret lair that was like out in the Monument Valley, and it was like a burned out volcano because he would lower Airwolf down into this thing and they
Yes.
couldn't find it. I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure you could find it if you go look for it. But
Wow.
it was a
It
great show. I'm going to tell you. I mean, as much as Riptide bombed and Blue Thunder didn't last long, I loved Airwolf. I mean, my dad and I would watch that sucker when it would come on, and then it did fall apart, but it was pretty good for a while there, you
Yeah,
know?
I think it was a great fun. One of those classic TV series of the 80s, along with, the A Team and also,
Yeah.
Magnum. And it's great fun. It's worth checking out. And you know what else is worth checking out, Mitch?
Well, I was going to say, well, before checking out,
Oh,
I was going to say Jan Michael Vincent. I don't think there's anybody really left from Airwolf. He passed away sadly. He lost his leg. I think he had diabetes, and then he tragically ended. He even broke his neck at one point. He had some
mhm.
issues with the law outside of the show. Ernest Borgnine, Connecticut's own, made it to about 96 years old. He was on McHale's Navy and a bunch of shows. But is Cord alive? I was going to
No,
ask you
he
that.
he passed away.
Oh, that's what I wanted to. And I think Barry Van Dyke's still with us.
He is. He is.
The
He'd be a
Sa-
good guest to get at
a
Terrificon, I
Terrificon,
reckon.
St. John Hawk or St. John Hawk, as they're saying now, but I've
Yeah.
never once thought it was St. John. But anyway, to answer your earlier question, you could go on a ride into the sky, pulling the Mach 1 and letting those solar flares or whatever they're called back out there by simply smashing that button below, and you too can go up in the sky with Ed and I as we sail back into the past with Airwolf and crew on another adventure looking at TV, movies, and more right here on YouTube. And that's it. So,
That's it. That's all
Stringfellow
she
Hawk,
wrote.
there you go.
All right. So this is Ed Archangel out.
And this is St. John, now St. John, Mitch Halleck saying, did they say punch it?
Sure.
Sure. Punch it.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.